So we now have this wonderful program, and I'm pretty sure that we can kind of see some weaknesses here. And one of them for sure is that how would we actually get this information from the actual users? And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to back into this by doing this the hard way first. All right. So this kind of gets us into the idea of not just input, but how do we add items to a list? All right. So how do we add items to a list? So I'm going to demo this again using the visualizer. All right. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create myself a blank list. Right. So when I actually run this thing, and you can kind of see it's created a blank list and there's nothing here. Now the next thing it does the assignment, and you can see it quickly shoves all this stuff into that list. Right. Well, that's awesome, but that's not really what we want to do. What we want to do is we want to add things to the list as we go. So let's imagine right now that I'm going to have a variable which I'm going to call float donut sales, and it's going to be 20.0. And then what I could do here, so actually it's, and then what I'm going to do is we're going to put that float into that value. So tell you what, changing my mind even as I'm going. But let's just do this. All right. So this is going to create an empty list. It's going to create a variable called $20, and it's going to put that variable in the first part of the list. So let's go visualize, and we go. There's our $20, like we've seen already, and then this whoosh, that $20 goes into the first thing. You can tell it's the one I have in that variable because it's a float. The other guys were integers. All right, awesome, great. Again, that's pretty horrible. Let's do this and use an input instead for that. So if I go input, what are Monday's sales? Okay, and I do this, and I go visualize the execution, empty list, the float, oops, try that again, empty list, and we go next, what are the sales? I'm going to go 20, I'm going to hit the submit button. Notice that this is a string, and then as we go into the next line, boom, that string is now going into the list. We don't want it to be a string, we want it to be a float. So let's go back out again and make this thing a float. Float, and I do this, close the parentheses, I go visualize the execution, I go next, here's my donut sales. It is going to be now, oops, text again, and I put in 20. I don't really have to go point anything. I hit the enter button, and now that is a float, and so now that is now going into the list. That is awesome. All right, let me show you a quick trick, which I think might work here. The input actually has the ability that you can go input or a default. I think what this is going to buy me is if I don't enter anything, it's going to give me my default value. And that's just going to make it easier for me to demo this, because I'm just going to go click, 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 and run it. All right, so we kind of got how that's going to work for Monday sales. Let's now go copy and go Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm going to stop after that. Okay, so I'm going to go Tuesday sales, Tuesdays sales, Wednesdays sales, Wednesday sales, and I seem to have that one at 30, and I had that one at 25. Right, and I'll just leave the other ones hard coded. Right, so there's 25, and I'm going to put yep, I'm going to have to basically go Tuesdays and Wednesdays for now. Oh boy, yuck. Again, this is not the way we would build this thing, but I'm just trying to demonstrate it. So I'm going to go float. I'm going to go Tuesday. I'm going to float. I'm going to go Wednesday, and I'm going to put the Tuesday guy in the Tuesday slot, and I'm going to put the Wednesday guy in the Wednesday slot. All right, good deal. So let's visualize the execution, go next, and I don't care, I don't care, and I don't care. All those by default are firing off, and now we're gonna get a new list, and boom. So we can see that happening. Okay, now that's awesome, but you can kind of see that I'm kind of taking a step backwards. This is becoming more complex than the original program than before. So what we kind of need for this is rather than have a bunch of variables, we kind of need, we can go one step further in complexity, but we kind of do need sort of a loop. And I do appreciate that loops aren't really covered yet, right? Loops come right after collections. And I'm sure the authors had a really good reason for that. But a lot of this processing is very tough to talk about unless we actually go into a loop, right? Into a loop. And kind of what I want to do here is I want to have sort of a structure here where I got basically, you know, for that little piece of it, I basically want to have input value, right? I then want to basically, you know, put in list, and then probably a decision. Oh, geez, been a bit since I've used this guy. There it is. Then a decision. Let's get to the flow charts. Right there, where, you know, are you done? Right, and if you're done, then what's going to happen is, if you're done, okay, just move over. You're irritating me. Let's put you right there. So if you're done, great. Otherwise, go back up and do an insert. And that is just, what a horrible, there. Okay, whatever. You know what? That's close enough. Close enough for what I'm trying to do here. I'm just basically trying to show you the flow, right? Done. So if we're done, click on the text, move you over. So the done, this is no, we're not done. And then this done is yes, we are done. And then we do the rest of the processing. All right. So again, I'm kind of struggling along with using the editor here, but you can get the idea. I'm trying to build this structure up here. So let's go back and to the Python editor, and let's go edit the code. I think for this, let's go to a simpler example first. So let me just take this thing. I'm going to copy it out, throw it off to a notepad guy, and I'm going to completely clear this thing out. Now, for me to sort of show this next bit, I kind of need to have a pretty simple list. Okay, so pretty simple list. I might even be tempted just to grab the thing right out of here. So what we had the Apple list here, is that right? Where's that accessing list? There's the Apple list. So there's a pretty simple piece of code there. I'm going to go copy, and I'm going to go here, I'm going to go paste. I'm just going to run that code. All right, so what this is trying to demonstrate, by the way, is finding the element number 1, which is the banana. Now, what if I want to actually get this thing to print out each of them, right? If I want to get them to print out each of them, what I'd have to do is have this print statement 3 times. I'd have to have basically print 0 for the first one, print 1 for the second one, print 2 for the next one. Now, if I go and I visualize that execution and I go next, 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 you can see that's working great. But give me a break. You guys should probably be kind of more, you know, you should be instinctually thinking that this is a horrible decision. How do you know there's only 3? How do you know where to start? How do you know where to end? And so on. So there is actually another way to go through this, and that's the for loop. I could say for, and I'm just going to name it after what these are. Fruit is in this list. And I'm going to say print the fruit. Now watch what happens when I visualize this thing. So those go through. And notice fruit is now an apple. Fruit is now a banana. And fruit is now a cherry. That is the quickest and easiest way to go through that list. Now that's how I would print the list. How would I add fruit to this list? How would I add fruit to this list? Well, there is sort of another another way to just sort of start adding. And it is, in my opinion, the most common way to do it. If you're going to add to a list, what we want to do is you want to append and append and append. We want to basically append, which you'll see written out in a minute, but append basically means to add to the end of it. So append, append, add to the end of it. All right, so that's probably what we're going to do with this fruit. So let's get rid of this because we're in agreement that this is not what we want to do, and we want to basically append. So I think it's going to be just simply this list append. Oh my goodness, orange. All right, so let's watch this thing execute. We go, and so there's my list. Now this is going to append orange to the end of the list. There it is. Orange is appended to the list, and now when it starts going through the loop, you can see that it's basically printing off all of the fruit. That is how I could get something to the end of the list. Now, if I wanted to build this thing from scratch, so rather than actually have it as apple, banana, cherry, I'm going to basically build it from scratch. One thing I could do is I could create a list that is empty, all right? And then in that list, paste, 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 I can basically say, hey, why don't you put in the apple? Why don't you put in the banana? Why don't you put in the cherry? And then my buddy, the orange. So what this will do is it'll build a blank list. It'll go append, append, and append. And then this loop now will basically go through it. So that's an important piece of code to kind of get for what I'm actually about to demonstrate in this example here. I'm going to create a blank list. Then I'm going to basically get each of these fruits. Now, obviously, that's, I know what the fruits are in advance. I've just been talking about loops. How would I maybe get all this information in a loop? Well, what I could do is I could have a while true, okay, which is what the book has done a few times. I'm not going to stick with this, but this is what the book does. While true, I'm just going to basically have a string fruit entry, which is going to be assigned input. What fruit do you like? Okay, and then we're going to take this list and append the fruit entry. By the way, I'm going to default this and honestly, oranges are my favorite fruit. So I'm just going to do that. All right, so so if I hit enter, it's going to be orange, right? So now this will be an infinite loop. So here's what I'm going to do. They did talk about this a little bit, and we'll talk about this more when we talk about loops, but this will basically break out of the loop. So let's go and visualize that execution, see what happens. So this is going to create the list. It's going to put in orange. We now go into the while loop. We go next, and it says the name true is not defined because, Grant, if you remember, true is a Boolean. You need to have that identifier. All right, let's try that again. So visualizer, close my error, next, 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 while true. So user input, I would like to have an orange, please. And so that's interesting. It didn't actually take the orange, so I'm not sure what's going to happen here. I'm going to go next and just put in the blank thing. Will at least the break work? Okay, so the break pops out. All right, that's a good deal. What are you doing to me? I thought that would give me a nice little default. Okay, well, I'm not going to waste time on this video trying to figure that out. So at this point, I'll force myself to put something in here. But anyway, okay, so that kind of gives you a hint as to how to populate it. Now, the question now becomes, how do you control the structure? So what I would do at this point is I would add another kind of continuation thing here. So after I append, I would say str continue, and this will be that sort of switch concept I talked about quite a few slides, a few videos ago. I would basically say, do you want to enter more fruit? And I'll make it clear I'm looking for a Y, right? And that normally, by the way, means default, but anyway, so let's do that. And then I'm going to basically say, if the str continue is equal to Y, then otherwise break. All right. So basically, if it's equal to Y, it's going to continue. Otherwise, it's going to break out of the loop. Again, we're not staying here, but I just want to show this thing working. So we go through and build something. It says, hey, what kind of fruit do you want? I want to have a clementine, which is kind of like a bad orange. And that's it. I think that's not even how it's spelled. There it is, clementine. Good for you. I'm going to go. And now clementine is the variable. Now this next guy is going to append it. Then it's going to say, do you want to continue? I'm going to go, yes, please. I'm going to hit the enter button. Is str yes? It is. I'm going to go next. That means it's going to fall to here, which means continue, which means it now passes. What it did do, it didn't show you this, but it basically went to the end and it came back up, and now we're back here and it's looking for another fruit. Raspberries. All right. That's again not how you spell it. It's a P. I'm missing a P, right? Is that what I'm missing? Raspberries. I'm going to go. So now raspberries is in here. I'm about to now put it into that, appending it onto the list. That's awesome. Do I want to continue? No, I don't. I'm going to hit the submit button. It's now saying, is this equal to Y? It's not, so it's going to skip, go to the else. It's about to break out, and out it goes. Cool. That could be a very Python-esque way to do this. Let's do this the way that I think you should at least consider doing it, and that is by using Boolean checks. So I'm going to go Boolean continue, which I'm going to assume we're going to start it off with true. And so this is going to say, while, now in theory, I should go, to try and teach this, I should say, while Boolean is assigned true, great. And then if it's here, the continue is fine, but what I don't like is here, I'm going to change this. So instead of break, it's going to be the Boolean is assigned false. And that's how I'm going to control the loop here. So I'm going to go visualize. I'm going to go next. Now we got a new guy, a Boolean. It's going to go while this is assigned true. Let's put a user input. What kind of fruit do I want? I want some raspberries. I'm going to go continue. So now this guy, that's the variable. We're about to now append it onto the end of our list. We go next. There he is. Now I'm going to say, do you want to continue? I'm going to say, yes, please. And I'm going to go next because I'm going to test the success here. So is this yes? Yes, it is. I go to continue. It goes back up the top. We're on to the next fruit. What fruit would I like? I would like to have blackberries. A little too tart for me, but I'd like to have them. I'm going to go. So now this guy's blackberries. It's going to be appended onto the list. I go next. There it is. It's onto the list. And then it's, do you want to enter more fruit? I'm going to go no. I'm going to hit the submit button. And is this no equal to that? Yes. No, it's not. So it's going to go right up to here. Boolean is currently true. It's now going to set it to false. And we come up to here. Is this true? It's not true. It's false. And it falls out. All right. Get familiar with that code, because that's an important driving loop, and that's the way I'd like to see them. One other thing, remembering again, the tension I always have in my head is, do I teach it the Pythonic way or do I teach it the fundamentals of programming way? I've made a few sacrifices, but this is what I do here. I don't really need to say this is equal to true. because I can cut that out, right? Basically, just so you know, right, what happens here, let's put it back in, is that it evaluates that and says, is that true? And if it's true, then it moves on. This already is true. So it's sort of like an extra comparison. I don't really need that. I mean, it's not going to make the thing run a bajillion times faster, but it's just so you understand, it's looking for this line to evaluate to true. This already is true. When I'm finished with the loop, it's going to become false. And so it'll come up here and it won't be true, so it's going to fall out. Okay, that was really exciting. I think I'm going to stop the video, give you a chance to digest this, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to come into the next one and take that program I was working on and put this whole loop idea into it. All right.